y'all are having a good Saturday. I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. I was planning on covering the Natalie Cochran case today. She is charged with the death of her husband. They believe that she's charged with using insulin. She has a history of being a pharmacist. There's a Ponzi scheme. There are allegations that she faked cancer. Like this, the case just has so much. And it's my understanding that she is going to testify on the stand. So I do plan to cover that case on Tuesday because I think she might testify maybe on Monday. I'm hoping it's either Monday or earlier on Tuesday so that I can cover it Tuesday night. Whew. So this case has been one that you all have asked for. It is Naziah Harris. She was 13 years old when she disappeared, and her body has still not been recovered, based on my understanding. There have been preliminary hearings, and we are going to watch the judge talk to the defendant in this case. And the judge has some very strong words for him. I could kind of see some emotion in the judge's face. And so we are going to watch a clip from that. And then I decided to cover this case because I saw a TikTok where somebody was talking about how when they were 12 years old, they disclosed having feelings for an adult man. And she describes how her community came around her to support her. So I will also be playing that video a little bit later because I think it's important that we talk about protecting kids from predators, from people that would harm them because I don't think Naziah did anything wrong. I think Jarvis Butts, according to what the judge said, according to everything I've seen, it sounds like he has a history of targeting women with children and not really wanting the women, that he was more interested in the children. And there were probably some red flags that the women in his life overlooked. And so I like talking about what are some red flags and signs that a child is being um I think I can say let's say broomed with a G, that a child is at risk of being harmed. She was a child, and I am going to share a picture. So I'm going to read from an article. There is some language in the article that is a little too strong for the YouTubes, and so let me share her picture. She was a beautiful girl. Like I said, only 13 years old when she disappeared. And they believe that she was pregnant with his child and that was probably the motivation for what he did, or for what he's charged with. Okay. All right. So let me read some of the history of this case. Make this smaller. Right. So Naziah Harris was 13 years old. This case is out of Detroit, Michigan, and she went missing back in January of 2024. There was a preliminary hearing was held on January 6th to determine if there was enough evidence for Jarvis Butts, the defendant in this case, to stand trial in her because he's been charged, I believe, with first degree capital M and child harm. Because the text messages, he would request naked photos of her. Like there was a pattern and a history where it seemed pretty clear that the relationship was inappropriate, that she was a victim. So on January 9th, 2024, 13-year-old Naziah Harris got off the school bus and she was never seen again after that. Her grandmother did not report her missing until January 10th. And a lot of people have had words for the family. It seems like she might have lived with her grandmother and aunt. I think the judge even questioned, like, where is her mother? Where is her father in all of this? Um, And I don't have answers to any of those questions today. And sometimes this reminds me of the case of the girl that was similar situation. She was put in that like young police cadet program, and adults in that program ended up taking advantage of her, and she had lost multiple family members. There was probably this hole in, because sometimes predators, they don't pick kids that have, like, typically they target children that are vulnerable, because they target kids that aren't going to tell, that they think are going to keep their secret. And so having open communication with children is incredibly important. I'm just trolling on the chat. Like, this case really, really is so hard. Hey Kurt, how you doing? The judge's statement was so powerful, and we are definitely going to take a look at it. And so he started um the inappropriate relationship with her when she was 11. That is the allegation, that it started when she was 11 years old. So from 11 to 13 years old. I hope that they can recover her body. It just really does help everybody have some type of closure in this case. Lisa, you were one of my top ones asking for this case. And so mom had substance issues, and dad was married and didn't want to disrupt his marriage, which would have felt like a rejection to Neziah. So let's say her birth father remarried and they might, and I don't know if they have children or not, but he remarried and he's not taking custody of his child. Her mother is not in a place to be able to care for her, and her father just doesn't want anything to do with her. That would open the door for a young girl to seek a parental type figure, because I believe so Jarvis, I believe he's 42, 41, or 42 years old right now, meaning he was about 39 years old. So not that if he was 21 or 22, not that that would make this any less of a crime, but the fact that he was old enough to be her father, and she may have been searching for the love, acceptance, and approval of a father. And in seeing some of their text messages back and forth, it seemed like she was afraid of disappointing him, of letting him down. And it's so problematic. All right. So why was he charged? He turned himself into authorities on January 9th, the day she went missing, on an unrelated pew pew charge. And Neziah reportedly met up with him that day, and they went to Ypsilanti before returning to Detroit, where he booked a motel. Text records allege that he knew she was pregnant, and he had been searching online for ways to terminate, including drinking red antifreeze, which, please, no, nobody, please don't, like, that is not safe. They also believe that he had started the inappropriate relationship, like the harm of her, in 2022. Okay, and that he had this history of targeting and befriending women to get close to their daughters. And we are going to listen to the statement of the judge. He's also accused of harming an 8-year-old family member and a girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter, who reportedly caught chlamydia from that assault. And so, like, he is vile. Like, this is true P-file behavior, because, yes, like, we're talking 8 and 4 were just some of the known victims, and I do believe that there may be victims that we do not know about, because it sounds like he had a history of this type of behavior. And it can be hard for kids to not know that it isn't okay. And because often we talk about stranger danger, we talk about, something happening with somebody that you don't know, and harm by somebody that's close to the family, that's in the family, that is often more difficult, because it's just very, very difficult to understand. He knew her because he is the father of one of her cousins, and he would request inappropriate photos. I think he sent her inappropriate photos as well. All right. He was tracked to the Rogue River in Detroit the day after her disappearance, where police would later recover the clothes she was last seen wearing. And authorities said there was damage to the clothing that would indicate a struggle. So he was charged with first degree capital M child SA material, so child S Sam, and then so CSAM, and then second degree criminal SA child under 13. So those are the charges that he is facing. So the judge had that hearing, and they did go over the text messages revealed in court. I am not going to be going through those messages. Please trust me when I say it's inappropriate. And if you do want to go back to Court TV's channel or dig into this case a little deeper, there are videos breaking those things down. His search history was also like, so so remember, people don't do crimes, and if you do a crime, they're going to take a look at your phone. And so a lot of his data corresponds with him being involved with what happened to her. They also recovered her school ID. That was March 7th, 2024. A woman walking found her school ID. And this really, really just is a sad and tragic case. So I want to take a break. We're not a break, but I want to take a look at that TikTok video. Um, and I have a link to the video, to the creator that made it. I have a link to her channel down in the description. I just thought that she phrased this really well. So we're going to listen through, and then we're going to talk about it. I'm probably going to interrupt, but we will see. Let's go.
When I was 12 years old, I wrote a love letter to a grown man who was my camp counselor at this little summer program I was a part of. I confessed my undying love and told him that I wanted to be his wife and have his babies. And you know what he did? He, along with a woman counselor, pulled me to the side and told me that, sweetheart, that is not appropriate. But they took it a step further. They then started asking me questions because they wanted to see, had I been exposed to something that was inappropriate, or had I had something happen to me? Because what is making you, me, a 12-year-old, think that she's in love with a grown man? Now, out of that therapy session, they learned that, one, I was being bullied at school. I didn't really seem to have a lot of friends. I was a very weird, quirky Black girl. I was in my own head a lot. My parents, who worked very, very hard, but weren't home a lot, didn't really give me a lot of the attention that I think I needed, or the social, emotional kind of support, right? I was adopted. My parents were a lot older, so their generation, children are seen and not heard. I didn't really have too much of a voice. But this man, who I thought I was in love with, was so nice to me. He used to compliment me all the time. He used to tell me how smart I am. I don't know what love is. I don't even know what sex is. Like, what? I'm just going based on what I see in movies, not realizing that as a child, this could have put me in a very weird predicament. But it didn't, because the adults in the situation were adults in the situation. And I wish that Naziah Harris could have had at least one or two adults in her situation that could peep, that could see, that could intervene. Because what happened after I had this little session, both of those adults called my parents. They took it even further. My parents were like, oh my gosh, I'm appalled. Don't worry, we're going to discipline her. And both of these camp counselors literally said, don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. We don't want to bully her down, or not bully, but just kind of take it a peg down. We don't want to knock down her confidence. And she feels self-conscious now because she feels exposed. Like, no, they told my parents what they learned and was like, your daughter is having issues because she doesn't have any self-esteem. She's lacking like self-confidence. We've been trying to build that up, but it's being twisted in her mind. And that's a conversation that you guys really need to have. But I think that y'all need to spend more time with her. I think that y'all need to address some of these underlying issues so it doesn't become a problem with her when she does become a teenager. You know what I mean? When she does start becoming a woman, you know? And my parents, as old school as they are, actually did listen to them, and we had a conversation. And I really did appreciate that, even though it was weird at the time because I'm 12. I don't want my parents to know that, like, I'm in love with this man, or at least I thought I was. You know, I'm embarrassed or whatever. But, like, years later, I think I was talking to my mom about it, and she was just like, yeah, I just didn't want you to be fast. And I was like, there was no fast. There's no... I had a 2-parent household. Naziah Harris didn't. Even though my parents were super busy, they tried their best. I'm going to take a guess and say that grandma or auntie just didn't. They really didn't. All the stories I'm hearing, they didn't. I had a man who was willing to tell me, sweetheart, that's not appropriate. And any man who thinks it is wrong. Naziah Harris did not have that. And I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of frustrated because watching all of this play out, and we're still watching it unfold right before our eyes. It's just like, it's so triggering. It's so triggering because there's so many situations that I can count on my hand right now with little girls I personally know or know of, to where I'm like, you need to stop. I tell the adults in the situation, you need to stop before something happens to this little girl that you're supposed to protect. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. When we can, as a community, get together and be honest about the stuff that we are exposing our kids to, if we can be honest about men not going for those advances, women talking to your daughters and not trying to label them as fast, not trying to be jealous of them, not trying to be like, oh, you're trying to be grown. She don't even know what that is. That's it. That's all. I just wanted to share my story. I'm getting frustrated. It's already 5 minutes, but justice for Naziah Harris. She deserves so much better. And this story has been blown up on TikTok because it really is a lot of our stories.
All right. And so the reason I wanted to share that one is because I have had so many kids in my office that sometimes the family was unaware that there was a history of child harm, or before they were ever thinking about being sexually active, their parents were already saying, they were calling them names, we're saying you're this and you're that, which creates more of a barrier between the parent and the child, and the parent is already assuming that they're doing this or doing that. I've shared on here before that when I was 13 or 14 years old, it was either eighth or ninth grade, a woman at my church came up to either me or my mom and was like, said that I needed to change the way I dressed because her husband kept staring at me. And my mom appropriately was like, ma'am, you need to talk to your husband. Like, why is your husband staring at, like, my daughter? She's, because I wasn't dressed inappropriately. Now I ran track. I do not have that body anymore, but that was pre-kid, that was pre 40-year-old perimenopausal lower what's it, metabolism. Like, so ma'am, you need to talk to your husband. why do I need to change the way I dress when your husband is staring at a child? And I will never forget that. I know that I've mentioned it on here before, but there are people that don't have people in their corner like that, where if somebody comes up to them and is saying you're this or you're that, to put it on the child to have to dress different. Because in this situation, I don't care what Naziah did. I think he was a predator. And and so, because sometimes it gets into, oh, how did they dress, or what did they do, or how did they respond? No, this is a child. And I have worked with kids and teens that, because of situations in their life, because of low self-esteem, lack of certain attention in the home, seeking out negative attention from older men, we were able to have those conversations safely. But I don't think Naziah had that. So I do want to play the comments from the judge. Okay, the judge is going to go in. Okay, like this judge. This is my first time seeing her talk. She is not going to hold back her words for him. She is, I believe, gonna call him, a monster. And, let me just make sure that we're at 1 speed. Nope, because Imma slow her down to normal speed. There we go. So let's go on ahead and take a look at this.
Shoes to possibly lead to animals tearing up that hoodie. The clear glasses found in the blue Nissan the day after she went missing. The behavior of the defendant when he snatched those glasses. They looked exactly like the glasses she had on in her last picture, according to the witness. The shoes that her brother described as the same shoes that were found also in the area of 7 Muhlenberg near the hoodie. While this is still probable cause, the evidence all points to Jarvis Butts. His locations, him being seen with her last, the abortion searches, the abrupt silence between the two of them in text messages, and the constant lies he told throughout the entire investigation. And they were proven to be lies with text messages and other testimony. We may never know what happened, but from what I heard today and over the last 4 or 5 days, it appears he intended to perform what he thought was a do-it-yourself abortion on Naziah, and went south, and instead of seeking medical attention for her, he intentionally killed her and tried his best to cover it up. As much as I want her to be alive today, there is at least probable cause to show and believe that she's dead and she was murdered by Jarvis Butts. Mr. Butts, stand up. You've been sitting over there for 4 days with your head down, sitting between and behind your attorneys with your mask on.
So he is standing with, so he has 2 attorneys, and he is in the middle with the mask on.
And taking vigorous notes. I want you to pay attention and listen to everything I have to say. I have been trying to figure out for the last 5 days, you. At one point, I thought you were cognitively impaired in the beginning of this exam. And then maybe you had the brain of a 10-year-old, and that's why you were doing such things. But as I heard more and more testimony, you're just a true definition of a pedophile. Watching you laugh and brag about all the women you have with different women and the children and the girlfriends, and making babies to groom them and having them in your presence, cleaning up your shop, and the little girls around you, has landed you here today. You groomed Naziah. You played mind games with her. We all heard that. You controlled her emotionally. She was exposed to so much at such a young age. The text messages between you two were disgusting to hear. And to think that she had you saved in her phone as bae for life. Naziah deserved so much more. And while I mentioned other people that failed her, Jarvis Butts, you are the monster in this whole picture. She did deserve love from her parents and everyone who was in her life. She was ignored, she was neglected, and you took complete advantage of that. She wanted someone to love her, and she will never know what that feels like. Your children deserve more. As much as defense counsel has raised issues on count one, all that has done is raise the question of fact for the trier of fact, which means that this will be for a jury or a judge to hear in Third Circuit. I pray for the healing of all the victims and the young girls and possibly boys who have come into contact with you. As a community, we should look at this case as a prime example of how much work we have to do when it comes to protecting our children and especially our Black girls. I pray for closure and healing for all those who have been traumatized by you. And for you, Jarvis Butts, I wish you a speedy trial and that justice be delivered. Your bind over date is January 16th at 9:00 a.m.
Whew. Like those were, so I've never heard a judge make those types of statements during a preliminary hearing. So his trial has not started. This is just the preliminary hearing. I can Google when his trial is starting. Please also know that Grizzly True Crime has some videos covering this case, and she always digs deep and finds all the history. Just what I found in my search was enough for me to say to agree with the judge. He is a monster. Like he targeted women with children. And I like that the judge even left it open that there may be some male victims that we're not aware of. I've talked on my channel multiple times that male victims of harm are often less likely to come up, especially male to male, because there can be this hidden, like, where there's this additional shame for the victim that should not be there at all. The child did nothing wrong, but uh, I just wanted to continue to share what are some signs that a kid might not be okay. And if kids start having major changes in their attitude, in their behavior, all of a sudden they start failing in school. Some people commented, how did the family? Because I think she knew she was pregnant in around November. I believe she messaged him around November about missing her period, and so at the time of her death, she was probably somewhere around maybe 4 3 to 5 months pregnant, just depending. We don't really know for sure, and I don't think he cared about her, and I wish she had someone safe in her life to say, a 41, 42-year-old man, 39-year-old man does not go after an 11-year-old girl. Like that is inappropriate, like from the adult. That is not okay. That is not safe. That's not a healthy relationship for that child. That shouldn't be that child's first experience with what they believe to be love, because that's not a equal dynamic. We are starting in a toxic, abusive, harmful place. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. He also has separate charges pending for harming other girls as well. Because I was aware of at least two: the 8-year-old and the 4-year-old. So I was aware of at least two, and I would not be surprised if more victims came forward. Sometimes, depending on when people come forward, it can be hard, excuse me, to have the evidence. It just depends on what they're able to find. And so tips for people that are dating and if they have children. So if you're dating and you have children, if you have casual friendships, I wouldn't even mention that I have a child, like, or I would just keep information about my children very limited. It seems like because I think the judge, I believe, thinks the family lied because I think the grandmother said he had never been in Naziah's room, but there's a text message where he messages her about stealing a pair of her underwear. And so it seems like the judge didn't even believe the grandmother when she said that he had never been in their home. That's my understanding from what I've heard about this case. This case is extremely triggering. And so please, as you're watching and looking at things like this, if it starts to get to a place of being too triggering, please click off. I did not watch his entire preliminary hearing because I've followed a lot of these types of cases, and it is heartbreaking to just see this happen time and time and time again. And so that's where I protect my own mental health. So that's why when people were asking me to cover this one, once I saw the video from TikTok, I was like, okay, we can talk about people not calling, especially people not sexualizing children, not calling them fast and you're this and putting language around their behavior. Now, if my child is trying to wear something that's not age appropriate, now that's a different conversation. Like, hey, you're a little too young. And it's not that I'm attaching, because to me, calling somebody fast is often saying that um that there's something else. And if my 13-year-old is out seeking the attention of every male, and I know that she has all this other painful history in her life, please get some therapy. Please find a safe place for this child. And sadly, a lot of people don't. A lot of parents will try to discipline it out of the child, and that does not work. And so I liked in that TikTok that we watched how she talked about the counselor advised the parents, like, don't, like, this isn't about discipline. She needs to feel safe, seen, and heard. She needs to feel loved. She needs to spend more time with you all. And her story also had adoption, which adds an additional complexity to it. I work with adopted teens, children, and adults, adoptees as well. And sometimes there can be this identity crisis. There can be this, because Naziah, she wasn't being raised by her birth mother and father. This would at least be a kinship type. Like, it seems like grandmother and aunt had guardianship because mom wasn't able to, and it sounds like the father wasn't there, physically wasn't caring for her because of other stuff. And I'm really passionate about protecting children. There is a book called Duck Duck Groom. The author of that book was on, I think it was Surviving the Survivor. It's Anna Sedona. So I'm going to share my tab so that we can see just the cover of that book. Let me share a different tab. There we go. And so this is a book specifically on understanding how a child becomes a target. And so this is an additional resource. I don't have this link down in the description, but you can easily find it at your local bookstore or if you search online. Ooh, um, wow. Somebody mentioned that there are still children in that other home. And, um, I hate to but sometimes Child Protective Services, sometimes their threshold of what they consider to be, harm is sometimes very, very high, especially for impoverished areas, for areas where it's common for people to leave kids at home by themselves or to not be physically present, or if it's common to have certain things. So if there isn't a parent actively abusing substances, or if there isn't physical or SA, if it's neglect, sometimes those cases aren't always looked at. No parent's perfect. Nobody gets it right all the time. You can have parents be active and loving and very present in their child's life, and their child still be the victim of a difficult situation. Something that I like to talk about is that adults should never be messaging children on Snapchat. So I will have some, especially like 14 to 18-year-old clients that will message me about scheduling, but they're only messaging me about and it's text. Like it's not through WhatsApp, or like it's not through like Instagram. They don't DM me on Instagram. I don't respond to DMs from children. Uh there are things adults can do to help make kids safer. And so it really is sad. Thank you all again for recommending this case. The next case is going to be that Natalie Cochran case. It has so many twists and turns, and I think she's going to testify soon. So I want to cover her testimony. Her daughter testified because I think the father, so her husband, so Natalie Cochran's husband, the father of the, I think it's 20-year-old that testified. I think she was 13 or so when her dad passed. And then another child that's 17 testified, and he was also, so he was a young child when his father passed. And I've been following that case with Lawyer Lee. Lawyer Lee has been doing phenomenal overviews of that case. And so I was able to kind of watch with her. If you're looking for something funny, if you're like, I don't want to watch true crime, I just want to watch something funny, I watched Roy Wood Jr. did a special over on Hulu. And I get nothing for saying this, okay? Like I watched it last night, and it was a really good special that talked about the importance of connection. And so it's called Lonely Flowers. It was a really sweet, it was a good special. Let me share this. Um and so he is pretty liberal in his political beliefs, but I feel like he so like but just if that's a thing for you, I thought it was hilarious. I thoroughly enjoyed this. And so I wanted to share that. I remember him from The Daily Show. He did expect to be offered the host gig when Trevor Noah left, and that did not happen. And so he did leave Comedy Central. And I watch his show because he has a show with Amber Ruffin and I think one other comedian. It's on CNN, I think. And it's almost like Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. So there used to be it was an NPR show called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. It was an audio show, and their show is a lot like that show. I adore Amber Ruffin. I love her Amber Says What. And I really loved it. I adored Josh Johnson. Okay. So the minute Tuesdays, I think at 6, no, I think Tuesdays at 8 p.m. he does a premiere normally. And so I adore that one. Yes. Wait, 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 don't tell me. That was a great show. And so this one on CNN is a lot like it. Let me see the name of that show if I can find it. CNN show with Amber Ruffin. It's I've Got News for You. And Michael Ian Black, Roy Wood Jr., and Amber Ruffin. And so I love it. And so I love sharing with you all when there are things that we can watch when we're just trying to disconnect and like not watch, and all those other things. And so I appreciate you all. It's almost February. I don't know where January went. We are about to roll right into February. If you got snow in your area, I hope you are staying safe, especially, the Floridians and people down in the South that aren't used to snow. We have been having because our roads are fine. I'm in Virginia. Our driveway is a little icy, but like it's overall fine. I have 4-wheel drive and it's fine. I think you're in Texas. Snow is a devil. Kurt, did you end up getting any snow? Hey, Tanika, thank you for keeping us up to date on Miss Boone and all of her loveliness. Car Talk was another good show on NPR. Um, uh, Florida's fine. I'm glad y'all are fine down in Florida. If you ever just need something uplifting on the community tab, I share different resources, just general tips. If people are, the most recent ones I did were tips of things to say to somebody in crisis, tips of things to say to yourself if you're in a crisis or kind of dealing with a difficult day, difficult situation. And sometimes I just share funny things there. If you do have Instagram or TikTok, I do educational stuff or just random fun stuff there. But I appreciate you all. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I do plan to do a members only live. Let's see. Let's do it. I think we can do it Tuesday earlier in the day. I think we'll do it Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. We'll do a members only chat. And I appreciate you all. I will see y'all next time. Have a good one. Bye.